Hi everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Parentally Unfiltered. Today we're crossing borders to have a look at France and at the Netherlands. How do these two countries approach pregnancy, birth, and postpartum care, and what can we learn from each of them? To explore these questions, my guest today is Flore Alardo Smit. Flore is a fellow French woman, a midwife, and the mother of 3 boys. She has worked and given birth in both France and in the Netherlands, and as such, she really offers her unique perspective on 2 maternity systems that often take very different approaches. In this episode, we compare these 2 worlds, challenge some common assumptions, and discover how culture can really shape the way we experience becoming parents. Hi, Flore, welcome, and thank you so much for being here. Could you start by telling us a little bit more about yourself, who you are, where you come from, and what you do?
Well, my name is Flore. I'm 35 years old. I'm from France. I grew up in a small village next to Lyon in France. And then I went to Paris to study medicine when I was 17 years old. And there I stayed for 13, 15 years. Yeah. And I've met my husband, my Dutch husband. And yeah, that's why we are here now in the beautiful city of Amsterdam.
Thank you, Flore. So first, let's start about your career as a midwife. You've been a midwife for almost 12 years now. Can you tell us why did you choose this path? Why did you choose to become a midwife?
Actually, I knew for a very long time that I wanted to work in a health system because, I don't know, since I was like 4, 5 years old, I wanted to be actually a pediatrician. Well, I had no idea what it was, but I mean, it was either that of being like a helicopter pilot. Don't ask me why, but that's what I wanted to do first. I always knew I had to go to medicine school in France, and that's the only path to become a midwife. And after studying 2 years of medicine in Paris, we had to make like a big test and then choose which path we wanted to continue. So I had to choose between being a dentist and being a midwife, and I decided to go for the midwifery.
Have you always been interested in working with women and babies?
Well, I think actually I was more attracted to kids at the beginning, or babies. But in fact, now I like better the care for the woman than for the babies, because you have, of course, more contact and more discussion with a woman than with a baby, even if they can already send us a lot of messages.
Yes. And can you actually tell us more about what your job was like? So you started working in France, right?
Mm-mm.
And you started working in hospitals. What was your day-to-day life?
Yeah, so I was working in a hospital in France. I was working in a public hospital, universitary hospital. So it means that we can take care of the mothers and the kids from 24 weeks of pregnancy. I mean, if the baby is born very premature, like 24 weeks of pregnancy, we can already take care of them. And for the mothers who have like a very bad illness or something with a high risk, basically high risk pregnancy, that kind of women were coming to us. And I've worked in Paris for like 10 years in different departments of the hospital. So we had the prenatal care. It was basically Monday to Friday from 9 to 5, prenatal consultation, just to make sure that the pregnancy is going perfectly well. And then we had like a department that we called high-risk pregnancy, when the pregnancy is not normal enough and then the woman has to stay in the hospital because, there is a high risk for her or for the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the delivery room, of course, which includes vaginal deliveries, but also C-section.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one is like day and night, weekend, 12-hour shift from 8 in the morning until 8 in the evening, or 8 in the evening to 8 in the morning. And the last one were the afterbirth, like postnatal cares, because in France you have to stay in a hospital between 48 hours and up to 10 days in the hospital. If you are sick or if your baby is sick, you can stay a little bit longer.
It sounds like it must have been quite intense working in a hospital. And you mentioned you were also offering a prenatal care. I'm curious, how does it work in France? Is it any different from prenatal care in the Netherlands?
Well, for the prenatal care, it's not very different because, well, you still have one appointment a month or so. All your prenatal care can be done by a midwife.
Mhm.
But if anything goes wrong, if you have a high-risk pregnancy with twins or, high blood pressure or something like that, then you have to go to a gynecologist. I could only follow the perfectly normal pregnancies, and it's also the same here.
Okay, so you were welcoming mothers to be in the hospital for all the prenatal checks.
Yeah.
And then they were giving birth
Mhm.
with you?
No, because actually I was working in the prenatal care for
Okay.
like, I don't know, 3 to 6 months. And then I was working at the same time another team in the delivery room. Yeah. And then for the next 6 to, I don't know, 12 months, I would stay in the delivery room. Yeah. Basically, all the women I helped to to delivery, most of them I didn't even know them. I've met them
Okay.
the very same day. So this is one of the biggest difference, I think, with the Dutch system.
I see. In France, how is it? Like, mothers, do they give birth in the hospital or at
Mm,
home?
Yeah, most of them, I think like 98% of the deliveries are happening in a hospital, public or private, and like 2% are at home. But most of the time it's like, oops, I didn't have time to go to the hospital because, home deliveries in France, it's not it's not really in our culture. And there is also a problem for the midwives to be insured. And France is also a big country. So
Mhm.
it's also a bit difficult for the midwives to work in harmony with different hospitals. But I think we are slowly getting there,
Awesome.
hopefully.
I think it's a good thing. How did you like your job?
I loved it. I really had a great team. Some people, I mean, I have never been scared to go to work, even if sometimes we've had very busy like days or nights with very heavy cases for the mothers or for the kids. I've had an incredible team, and that makes it all, because midwife is the most, beautiful job in the world. I think that's what we always say, but it's also sometimes very hard, especially when you work with sick babies or sick mothers.
Yes. Yes,
So
I can
then when
imagine.
you have a very good support team, it makes a whole difference.
And you did this for almost 10 years, right?
Mhm.
And then you moved to the Netherlands. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah,
What
I
brought you here?
love. What
Of
else?
course.
No, I've met my husband when he was living in Paris. He's Dutch. He came here. Well, he came there for his studies because he's got a PhD and he was doing what we call a postdoc. But after Paris, we went to Lyon, but it was only for 1 year and a half. So, and I was also on maternity leave. So it was a bit,
Mhm.
just like a little parenthèse. And then, we came to the Netherlands. I was pregnant. I was a bit done with the work in a hospital. Not that I've seen it all. It's just like all I wanted to do was to be at home with my son, the first one. Yeah, and I've lost my team and my friends, so
Mhm.
it made it a bit different. And it was also COVID, so of course it was even harder to make some new friends, so new, like to really get used to the city of Lyon. It was a bit different. So my husband had this great job opportunity in the Netherlands. So we were like, okay, I'm done with my job. I'm pregnant. I'm gonna be in maternity leave anyway. You've got a great job opportunity. Let's go. So in like 2 months, we made our decision and we decided to move to
Wow,
Amsterdam. Yeah.
that's really fast. And that's a major transition
hmm
to move to a new country, especially when you are pregnant. How did you feel about that?
It was quite easy because we already had an apartment. He had a job.
Okay.
I mean, he's from here, so we were not going like to a place that we didn't know. His parents are also living not very far from Amsterdam. He still has a lot of friends. So, it was okay.
I mean, I know you were pregnant, but were you already thinking about what kind of work you would be doing here in the Netherlands?
Well, I knew I could work as a midwife. The only thing I had to do, and I will put, only in like,
Quotes.
quotes, because the only thing I had to do was to speak not perfectly, but almost perfectly Dutch. And
Okay.
that was the hardest thing, I think.
Did you speak Dutch a little bit already?
I took some classes in Paris, but it was just like evening classes. 2 hours a week or so. So it was, very basic touch.
Yeah. How was the transition for you? You arrived, you were pregnant. How did it go?
It was a bit tough, but mostly because it was, winter, COVID, everything was closed. We, of course, like everybody else, we had no daycare at the beginning. We had like 1 day a week or so. So yeah, moving in with a kid, pregnant, it was a bit heavy. And my husband just started a new job, so he was not home a lot. He had to work, Monday to Friday from 8 to 6 in the evening. So I know some other people work a lot more, but it was quite heavy at the beginning for us. Yeah, my parents came to help us when the baby was born, and we had more daycare, and my parents-in-law also helped us. So yeah, we had a lot of friends and help, I mean, so that was good. But yeah, I have to say that transitioning from France to the Netherlands, it was not that hard, because I was just focused on my kids and I was not really thinking about the future yet because I just had a baby. So
Yes, of course. How was it for you to give birth in the Netherlands? Because you had already given birth to your first child in France, and you had assisted so many births in France. And for you to give birth in another country, how was it?
Well, I came from very far because when I've met my husband, when it started to get serious, I told him, I think I will never, ever give birth in the Netherlands because it was, too different from what I've seen, what I have learned. Yeah, we even considered that I would go back to Paris
Oh,
or to
wow.
Lyon to give birth, but for a second child, it's not possible because you have the first one, because my husband also wanted to be there. So yeah, of course, it was not really an option. It was more like I wouldn't say a dream, but an idea, I would say. Yeah, but then I found a nice midwifery practice that gave me, trust and confidence. And the only thing is that I didn't want to give birth at home. And they told me that if I don't want to, I don't have to. And anyway, with my condition, severe hemorrhage for my first kid, they wouldn't do it also. So I felt quite safe about this decision.
So you gave birth in the hospital?
Yes. Yeah, in
Okay.
OLVG.
And how do you look back on that?
Yeah, it was perfect. I mean, the labor started during the night. My mother-in-law came to take care of my son, who went to the hospital. He was born at 5, and at 10 we were back home. So
Oh, wow. That's really fast.
yeah, that way. You know? So no, and that it was actually quite good because we had a Kramzor who came like 1 hour later, and I was very happy to introduce my baby to my kid, to my first son. So it was just it was good to be home
Yes.
because everything went perfectly fine, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think this is when we met, like maybe a few months after you gave birth.
hmm
And we were talking about parentally and what you wanted to do. So you've been a childbirth educator, but you were also thinking of getting the recognition of your French diploma to be able to practice here in the Netherlands. And now you got the recognition,
Yes.
so you can now officially practice as a midwife. Can you tell us about how things are going for you?
Actually, it's not very hard because I have an European diploma. So you only have to fulfill two conditions, which are, first, you have to speak good Dutch on a quite high level, and then you need to have work experience. So I had both. And then once you've done that, you have to send a lot of paper to the midwifery organization in the Netherlands or something. And and now since February, I've been doing like a stage in a midwifery practice where I live. And since August, since I had my diploma recognized at the end of July, and since August, I'm working there like independently. And I like it. It's a small team. We are 4, and it's actually the first person. The owner of the practice is actually the first person who really helped me through the process of having my diploma recognized, with helping me to have a stage, and she welcomed me. She needs me also because, I mean, well, there is like really, I don't know how to say it, but they really miss a lot of midwives in the Netherlands. So, she was looking for someone, and she was quite happy, I think, and I hope. But she was very helping from the very beginning. So it's very, very nice to work with them.
Oh, that's really nice. And I'm very happy for you that it could finally work. But it's so interesting that you have the expertise of working in both countries because, like you explained, they are quite similar, but also quite different in many ways. How is it for you working as a midwife here? What is your day-to-day like?
Well, two things. I would have what we call dienst, which is like to be on duty. And then I am home. It's 24 hours duty. I have the phone with me. And if someone's calling,
Yes.
I have to answer questions or to go to the place where the woman lives just to check if there is something wrong during the pregnancy, of is she in labor or that kind of things. And during this day, we also visit the woman in the first week after the delivery. And other days, I will be at the practice just doing some prenatal consultations. So yeah, it's a bit both.
So I believe the last statistics that we have about home birth in the Netherlands is from a few years ago. And if I remember correctly, it's almost 14% of births here in the Netherlands that are home births. In your work today as a midwife, do you assist many births?
Many, yes, at home, not that
Not,
much.
yeah.
Yeah, not that much. Because we are lucky enough to be in Amsterdam, and we have, I wouldn't say a lot, but enough hospitals in the neighborhood. And there are actually a lot of green flags that you need to have to be able to deliver at home.
Okay.
If there is any risk for the baby or for the mother, no risk is going to be taken. If there is anything wrong during the delivery, and I'm not talking about very wrong, but just, I don't know, if the baby pooped in the amniotic fluid or something, or if we have any doubt about it, then we go to the hospital. Or if the woman is willing to have some medical pain relief, like painkiller or something like an epidural, or any other painkiller, then we have to go to the hospital, which is of course fine to follow their wishes.
And it's quite different from what you had in France, of course.
Yeah.
So I guess it's quite enriching to have both these experiences in France and in the Netherlands. And do you think it has changed your views on midwifery?
Yeah, as I told you, I've been working in a university hospital. So I wouldn't say that all the women or all the babies had a problem, but a lot of them. So I tend to forget that delivery was like normal process, that everything could be fine. Like in Paris, not most of them, but a lot of them, they had some problems like preterm babies, twins, or just illness with the baby or with the mom with high blood pressure, or when there is something wrong with the baby with I don't know, heart disease or lung disease or something. So we tend to forget that most of the women are healthy enough to give birth to a healthy kid. And here in the Netherlands, I'm quite happy because actually we realize that that's not true. And most of the women are, healthy enough to have a perfectly normal birth. So childbirth. So I'm very happy with this experience.
Did you have any apprehensions about working in the Netherlands after working in France?
Yes, most of it was about, of course, language. Because when you don't always have time to use Google Translate,
Yes, of course.
and of course, not of course, but a lot of people in the Netherlands do speak English, and good enough to be able to communicate together. But when you give birth, you don't want to speak in English. You want to speak in your home language, of
Yes.
course, which makes perfectly sense. So this was one of my apprehensions, but also like the culture differences, because sometimes, even if you have the right word to it, maybe you're not going to have the same effect that
Yes, of
you
course.
wanted. And to learn all about the Dutch system, how it is organized, because it's very different than in France, where in France every woman is registered to a hospital, but here you are registered to private practice, and then you have to find a hospital if something goes wrong, but you're going to call hospital number 1, and if they are full, it's going to be number 2, and then 3, and then 4. So this is a bit more a bit trickier for me, but I'm getting there.
Awesome. With all this experience that you've gained from both your experience in France and Netherlands, what do you feel about childbirth today? What are your views on childbirth?
Well, I think it's sometimes it's tough when you are from France or from another country and you have to deliver in Amsterdam or a place which is not your home country, because of course you have the language problem and also culture, but also because your friends, your family, your mother, your aunts, or people that could help you to go through the pregnancy and delivery process, they cannot really help you because it was not the same. They had a different follow-up and they had different cares and they had different questions. So I think it's important to not really to compare, but to understand that not everything is black or white. The French system is good, the Dutch system is good. I think it's nice that you can really watch the two systems from a bit from above and to take what you want from each. Like I wouldn't trade for anything in the world like the Kramzor system in the Netherlands. This one is, I think, one of the best. It's just when you are going home with your baby, you are, for a first kid, most of the time you are completely lost and you don't really know what you're doing with your kid. And then you have this angel coming almost all day long to help you with your kid. So of course they are not all good. Of course you may not have a good relationship with her, but she's a professional and she's really here to help you and to feel good about yourself, to help you with breastfeeding, with changing diapers, to make a safe environment for you and your baby. And if you can have this, I think it's the best base that you can create to have a healthy relationship with your kid and also with yourself as a mom.
What are, according to you, the biggest differences between both systems?
Yeah, I think it's really according to me, and maybe I'm a bit like biased because I worked in a university hospital, but I've had the idea that in France, you have to prove that your pregnancy is going well, like we're gonna be like, okay, she doesn't have this, she doesn't have that, okay, she doesn't have this and this and that. And in the Netherlands, it's the opposite. I mean, she's healthy unless she has something wrong.
Okay.
In the France, it's a bit the same, the opposite. I mean, it's like the pregnancy is at high risk unless she can prove the opposite, like, yeah, you're ill until you're safe and sound. And
Wow. And how does this actually translate? Is it like more tests, more
you have more
screenings?
tests in
Yes.
in France.
So what tests do you have, for instance?
Toxoplasmos is going to be
Yes.
done every month.
True.
In the Netherlands, it's once.
Yeah.
You have more ultrasounds in France. You have one during the third trimester, like between 30 to 34 weeks. Nothing is mandatory, but I think 99% of the women are doing this one. And in the Netherlands, if everything's fine, the last ultrasound is when you are 20 weeks pregnant. So you have, more tests, basically. That's it.
And it's a major difference. And I know that, from our French clients with Parentally, you can be a little bit stressed when you don't do the tests that are, kind of common, like routine in France, and you don't have them here. So you can be a bit
What's going
concerned.
on?
But that's part of the cultural differences. So you work in a public hospital, and in France, you can also give birth in a private hospital.
Yeah, it's only from my experience, but I feel like in France, you have more difference in protocols, because in France, you have the public hospitals, the private one, and you also have a lot of private practices for midwives or for gynecologists, and they all have their own protocols. Sometimes they are not really up to date. So it's a bit sad, I think, because sometimes you have some protocols that are, 20, 30 years old.
What do you mean not up to date? Isn't there like...
Yeah, well, you have some guidelines,
Yes.
you have some recommendations, but like, for example, for some, like to screen diabetes during pregnancy, officially you have like a list of women who has to do the test because they are with higher risk of having this pregnancy diabetes. But, some gynecologists or even some midwives are going to be like, oh, you are a bit to this or you are a bit to that. But it's not officially in the guidelines. And the woman is still doing the test, So it can create more stress. Of course, it's also a cost for the society. And some gynecologist or self-midwife, they are also doing a lot of ultrasounds, even if it's not recommended, not because it's dangerous, but because the advantages of doing it haven't been proven. So it's not bad, but it's not good either, to create more stress, to make more exams. Yeah, I really don't think that the more you do, the better it is, Sometimes in French, we would say that more is the enemy of better.
Yeah, and at the same time, when you are pregnant, you want to be sure that everything is going right. And I'm going to talk for myself, but so I gave birth in the US and I went through this battery of tests, But at the same time, it was a good way for me to be reassured and put things out of the way. And when I arrived in the Netherlands and there were so few, tests and screenings, you cannot help yourself and not think of the what if, what if.
Well, I perfectly understand, but I think it's also important to have a bit of self-confidence because that's something you really need to become a mother. It's a natural process, but the more confident you're going to be, the more confident you're going to be with your body, with your partner, with your kid. That is a good key to have a safe delivery and a safe first weeks, months, or even years with your kid. You have to trust yourself. And I also feel like in the Netherlands, you have more control from the big organizations over the hospitals. And also, I will speak for what I know. For example, when you have the 20 weeks scan, so like the second trimester ultrasound, every 2 years, all the ultrasonographers are being evaluated, actually. That kind of thing doesn't exist in France.
Okay.
So that's a way for the country to be sure that the ultrasonographers are still good, Like, I think it's 5 ultrasounds that are examined, randomly, and then they have to fulfill all the very specific recommendations, All the ultrasound has to be perfectly done. And that's something that doesn't exist in France. So if you have someone very bad, if nobody's ever looking at his or her files, then he or she's just gonna keep doing it that way, So that's why you think that more is better, but it's not always the case.
Yes.
Sometimes it's better to have less care, but well done, than more care and poorly done. Well, that's my opinion.
And that's also a little bit scary, but let's not think about that. We were talking about the Netherlands being a little more hands-off. How does this really translate, during pregnancy, but also during childbirth?
Well, during pregnancy, for example, if a woman says, okay, I don't want to do this test, we're going to be like, okay, all good. But in France, it's going to be, are you sure if you don't do this, you're going to risk this, you're going to risk that.
Oh.
So it's not really controlling, but I think we are more working on, not with fear. It's because it's not meant to be mean,
Yes.
It's just not control freak either. It's just...
to be sure.
Yeah, just to be sure. Like, oh, are you really sure? Because,
Yes.
And maybe I'm also going to get in trouble if she's not sure and if something goes wrong, In the Netherlands, you're like, okay, you don't want to make an ultrasound? Good for you. Have a nice pregnancy, And we're still going to help you through the process of delivery and everything. But in France, you don't want to make an ultrasound, but it's recommended and you have to do it here. And if you don't want to do it, you have to sign this paper and this paper. Okay. And I'm going to talk to my colleague about it. It's like...
So you better do it.
Well, at the end, you better do it. Yeah. So that's during the pregnancy, and during the delivery, well, it's literally hands on and off, because in France, most of the women have an epidural. Okay. So you have to guide the woman more during the childbirth, the real childbirth. But in the Netherlands, if you keep touching, like really touching a woman who's giving birth without an epidural, you're just gonna get a hand in your face, which is perfectly normal because it's painful. And since a woman doesn't have no epidural, then her feelings are also stronger. She needs you to coach her, but she doesn't need you to touch her all the time. So that's also how it translates.
Yeah, but why do fewer women do not get an epidural? Is it cultural? Is it a choice?
It's a bit of everything. I think it's cultural, but it's also because the system is made that way, Like, even in the biggest hospital, there is no anesthesiologist who's only in the maternity department.
Okay.
But in France, in most of the hospitals, most of the maternities, you have one anesthesiologist who is right here just to help you with epidural. And also one big difference in France, it's mandatory to have like an appointment with the anesthesiologist during the pregnancy at the beginning of your third trimester. And then he's going to explain to you all the advantages of taking the epidural. Sometimes he or she is going to talk about problems that can occur with epidural,
Yes.
but sometimes not. And in the Netherlands, it's other way around. I mean, if you don't have any appointment with the anesthesiologist unless you have something wrong, of course, during the pregnancy. And then during the delivery, if you're like, okay, it's too much, I want to have an epidural, I want you to do something for me, then you have to read a paper that's gonna say all and explain all the disadvantages of taking the epidural. So
Yeah.
it's just like two
different
two different
approaches.
approaches, two
Yes.
opinions about something.
Yes. But you feel it's also a little bit, the trend of the moment. The more women I talk to, the more women I hear who say, I don't want an epidural. And,
Yeah.
if I had talked to, I don't know, maybe women 20 years ago, they would have said, yeah, of
Yeah.
course it exists. I'm going to take
Yeah.
it. And I'm going to talk for myself, but I got an epidural the first time. It took me like days to recover from it
Yeah.
because it was too highly dosed. And I really didn't want one the second time. And I also kind of felt like, all the wishes that I had in my plan were really respected. And I feel that's something here in the Netherlands that I really appreciated. And talking about hands off, it was really hands off. Like I could ask for no one to come in the room unless I really wanted to. And I feel like, and this is not necessarily what you hear in other Western countries where, there are, I think, more interventions.
But it's also because, well, again, I also speak for myself, but in Paris, I had to take care of, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5 women at the same time.
Yeah.
But here, it's one-to-one. So, of course, you can give more coaching. You can help the woman, just to go under the shower, to give her some massage, to help her with the positions. Yeah, just to coach her. I mean, in Paris, I had, I don't know, like 10 minutes every 2 hours. Are you okay? Okay. How far along are you? Okay, perfect. Well done. Go back to bed and, well, stay in bed because actually you cannot move with an epidural. Just stay in bed and I will see you in 2 hours. Just call me if you need something. It's
Well, let's put things a little bit in perspective as well, because the Netherlands is a smaller country.
True.
So we cannot really compare everything. And we were talking about things changing, I think.
I think things are really changing in France. I mean, I've left the hospital 3 years ago, 3, 4, 3. But I still have some friends who are working there, and they keep telling me that it's changing. And it's changing, in a good way. So that's good.
We can say in a good way, right?
Because in a good way, I would say in a good way, because women have more choice.
Yes.
And I think with good communication, the woman will almost all the time be able to make the right choice for her and for her baby. Not specifically the right one for me, but the right one for her. What's really matching her beliefs and her fears and her wishes, the right choice for her. That's,
And this is what I get also from, this younger generation. Not that I'm old, but this younger generation of women who really want to, get more information and get more power and control over, their own choices and their own body. And this is the kind of discussions that I have with my younger cousins, for instance. And what would be your message for them, this younger generation who is, on the verge of, becoming parents too?
I think it's important to have a lot of informations, but not too much, because on social media, and the most thing you're gonna see is catastrophes,
Yeah.
like bad things happening. But most of the time, everything is fine, for you and for the baby. So have a bit of trust and self-confidence, and communication is a key, just like always,
Mm-hmm.
There is no good way or bad way to do things, as long as you do it, with your own, respecting your own beliefs and wishes, with communication, of course,
Mm-hmm.
also with your medical team.
Yes, thank you very much, Flora. And I think that's a very good message that,
Hmm.
we have to repeat that most of the times things go well.
Yeah.
And it's quite important to shut out all the noise and
Yeah.
all the people who want to share their scary stories and all these things. It's not helping.
Yeah. Scary stories are always going to be here, but you also always going to hear the perfect stories. Oh, I gave birth in 2 hours and I didn't even feel anything. Well, that's not true. So yeah, just close your ears when you are pregnant, or when you are maybe sometimes trying to be pregnant.
Yes.
Just relax. It's in your head. No, it's not in my head. Just leave me alone and just protect yourself.
Yes, that's a very good advice. Thank you so much, Flore,
You're
for
welcome.
coming to this podcast with us. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this conversation brought you inspiration, comfort, or maybe simply a moment to pause and reflect. If it resonated with you, don't hesitate to share it. Take care, and I'll see you very soon.